For decades, there were two planes that were just kings of the sky, absolute giants. They were symbols of incredible engineering, of luxury, and this amazing dream of connecting the whole world. But today, the age of the four-engine jumbo jet is over. So we're going to dive into the epic story of the Boeing 747 and the Airbus A380 and figure out exactly why they vanished.
And that's the big question, right? These planes were the absolute pinnacle. They were designed to carry more people farther than ever before. So what happened? How did a dream that big just fizzle out? Well, the answer tells us so much about a massive shift in how we travel. So to get this story started, we've got to rewind the clock. We're going back to an era of incredible optimism, when the world felt like it was shrinking and the skies were opening up for everyone. Think back to the 1960s. The jet age was in full swing. And for the very first time, flying across the world wasn't just for the super rich. Airlines were booming, but they had a huge problem. Their planes were getting jam-packed, way too fast. They literally couldn't keep up with demand. The solution came from a true visionary, Juan Trippe, the head of the legendary Pan Am. He went to Boeing with this wild, audacious request: build me a plane twice the size of anything you have. His goal wasn't just about a bigger plane. It was about crushing the cost per seat so that almost anyone could afford to fly across an ocean. And what's just mind-blowing is how fast this all happened. Pan Am makes the call in '65. A year later, the design work starts. By 1968, just 2 years later, the first jumbo jet is sitting on the tarmac. A team of 4,000 engineers turned a wild idea into a real flying machine. By 1970, the Queen of the Skies was flying, and believe me, it changed everything. So for decades, the 747 was the undisputed champ. But across the Atlantic, a rival was dreaming even bigger. They were planning a direct, head-on challenge to the Queen's throne. And you have to understand, these two planes came from totally different worlds. Boeing, back in the 60s, saw the 747 as a brilliant solution for the time, but they honestly thought supersonic jets like the Concorde were the real future. But Airbus, coming along in the 90s, made a completely different bet. They saw a future of clogged, congested airports and believed the only answer was one single, massive aircraft to rule them all. And that bet was enormous. We're talking an estimated development cost for the Airbus A380 of $25 billion. Let that sink in. This wasn't just a new plane. It was one of the biggest industrial gambles in history. So what were they promising for all that cash? Oh, just pure spectacle. A full, true double-decker plane, offering a level of space and luxury nobody had ever seen. Airlines were talking about onboard bars, lounges, even showers. It was designed from the ground up to be bigger, fancier, and, Airbus claimed, way more efficient than its rival. Okay, so the stage is set for a clash of the titans. Let's do the tale of the tape. How did these two behemoths actually stack up against each other head-to-head? When you put them side by side on paper, you can really see their different game plans. The A380 clearly wins on seating, and just look at that massive wingspan. But here's a fun fact. The final version of the 747, the 747-8, is actually the longer aircraft. As for range and speed, they were practically identical. But this right here, this is where the A380's entire mission just jumps off the screen. I mean, look at that. A maximum certified capacity of 853 people. It could carry almost 200 more passengers than the 747. It was built for one thing and one thing only: absolute overwhelming passenger volume. So the billion-dollar question, which one was actually cheaper to fly? Well, it really depends on who you asked. Airbus loved to talk about per-seat efficiency. They argued that if, and that's a big if, you could fill the plane, it was cheaper. Boeing fired back, saying the 747 had lower overall costs, which made it a less risky, more flexible investment. It was a fierce debate for years. But here's the twist in our story. While these two giants were slugging it out for supremacy, the ground beneath their feet was shifting. A quiet revolution was happening, and the very foundation of their existence was starting to crack. Okay, so this is the model the A380 was built for. The whole idea was that you'd fly everyone from smaller cities into a massive central airport, a hub like Dubai or London, and then you'd pack them all onto one giant super jumbo for the long flight. And for a little while, it worked really well. But then airlines, and really all of us passengers, started asking a really simple but game-changing question. What if you didn't have to connect through a giant crowded hub? What if you could just fly directly from your city to where you wanted to go? This simple idea, it would end up sealing the fate of the jumbo jet.
And this is what did it, the rise of point-to-point travel. Brand new planes like the 787 and A350, made from super light materials and powered by just two incredibly efficient engines, could now fly those same long-haul routes, but with fewer passengers. And airlines loved this. They could open up way more direct routes, and they weren't forced to try and sell 500 or 600 seats just to make a flight work. All of a sudden, having four engines went from being a sign of power to being a sign of inefficiency.
And just like that, the party was over. But we can't end the story there. We have to talk about the incredible and yet very different legacies these two amazing planes are leaving behind.
The 747, the Queen, will always be remembered as the true pioneer, the one that changed everything. It wasn't just a passenger plane. It was a cargo hauler. It was Air Force One. It even carried the space shuttle. It was a true versatile workhorse. The A380, the King, was an absolute marvel of engineering and luxury, no doubt. But it was a specialist. It did one thing, carry a crazy number of people. And when the market didn't need that one thing anymore, its time was up.
And with that, the book just closed. First, Airbus pulled the plug on the A380 back in 2019. Then, just a few years later, Boeing delivered the very last 747, ending an unbelievable 54-year production run. An entire chapter of aviation history was just over.
So what's next? Well, the spirit of the jumbo jet kind of lives on in planes like the new Boeing 777X. It's a massive twin-engine jet that offers the capacity of an older 747, but with the amazing fuel efficiency that the modern world demands. It's the evolution that the 747 and A380 just couldn't make. Which leaves us with one last big thought. These planes weren't just products. They were declarations of ambition. They were huge, gutsy bets on what the future of travel could be. In a world that's now so focused on efficiency and small steps, you have to wonder, will the aviation industry ever take a gamble this monumental, this breathtakingly big, ever again?